Welcome to another craft at the Sumner Public Library with me, Sarah. And today we are doing after sun spray, and then we will be doing crepe paper flowers. I will start off today with the after sun spray as we are approaching summer and being outdoors. This will definitely come in handy. It's super simple and it's a great way to moisturize skin and promote healing for minor sunburns, or help ease the pain of them as well. So first of all, we are going to start off with distilled water. We want distilled water, that way we know that we don't have any bacteria that will grow in that. And so we have 2/3 cup. And then I am actually just going to mix it in here, that way it's easier to pour into my bottle. And we will want an 8-ounce bottle for this recipe because we want everything to fit in it. And yeah, sometimes the darker bottle is better as well, if you're using essential oils, to kind of break up any harmful sun rays that would affect your spray, and try to keep it in your bag that you take to the pool or the beach. Keep it in there, keep it out of the sun is the best. So to continue on, we have our 2/3 cup distilled water, and next we will be using the aloe vera gel, and we are going to be using 2 full tablespoons. And you know, if you have your own aloe plant, you can use your own gel from that, or you can buy it. You're going to want to make sure it's just 100% aloe gel. You don't need any of the other additives. And then we can add our 1 tablespoon, just set it down, our 1 tablespoon of the glycerin. Now both the aloe and the glycerin are for soothing, and the glycerin is very great at softening and a little bit of the healing properties in it as well, but it's very great for smoothing your skin. And then you can add your essential oils, whichever ones that you prefer. I am choosing to use lavender and eucalyptus. Lavender is also an antimicrobial, and so that'll help with killing and not having bacteria grow. And it is an excellent way to cut the pain of a sunburn, minor burns. Aloe and lavender are excellent for that, and eucalyptus, we'll be using that as well. Eucalyptus is a great cooling properties to it. And so I'm putting like 7 drops in of each. I'll actually probably only do like 3 or 4 of the eucalyptus. Sometimes people find that too cooling, so it is kind of your preference. And you can always start with like 1 or 2 drops, and if you feel like you want more, then you can go ahead and add that to your bottle and just shake it up real good to get it all mixed in. And when you go to use it, make sure you shake up your bottle real good. And it's the best spray to soothe your skin and moisturize it after a long day in the sun. Okay, next we will be doing the crepe paper flower. Oh, as you can see, it's very pretty, and it's pretty easy to make too. I had a lot of fun with it. I think it's very satisfying to work with crepe paper. And before we switch to a different vantage point, I will go over for this one. It's like a peony, and we have 3 different sizes for our petals, and it's just the outside petals and then the very inside, and a little bit bigger for the middle, and then the outside. I will be using like a pale yellow for the inside, and we need a piece of green for the base and the leaves, and whatever color of crepe paper you choose. Alrighty. Okay, so we are going to make a crepe paper peony flower, and when we get started, the easiest way to cut your individual pieces, you will have a stencil, and these are my stencils or templates. I've got 1, 2, and 3. And so when I went to cut these out, I take my templates, and I have my crepe paper, and it came in a roll. So then I measured out my templates, how far wide I should cut my strip, and then I cut this much off this length off of my roll, and then I will go ahead and accordion fold these. I'm going to start at the other side because this is how I went. So I have my templates 1, 2, and 3, and they all fit. And so then I folded that up and over and like this until I have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The original template or instructions said to have like 6 petals of each, but I find that 1 you can do that, but 5 or 4 work just as well. But then to cut these out, it is easiest to paper clip each one down and then cut it off, so you can then cut close to your template or stencil. So having done that, I have my pieces here, and then I am going to take my yellow paper, and so for my inside of my peony, I'm going to fold my yellow paper in half, and then I'm going to look here, and I think I want my yellow a little shorter, so I am going to go ahead, since I've cut this in half or folded it in half, I'm gonna just shave this off. So I'm gonna guess that this is about a little bit over an inch, 1.25 inches. And then I'm actually gonna shorten my length here too to about 4 inches. And so my folded edge here, I am going to go ahead and cut in like 1/4 inch increments all the way down. And I'm going to leave about 1/4 inch uncut at the bottom here. And I'm going to go ahead and just cut this out. And once again, like, these crafts are not necessarily meant to be super specific, you know, it's what you make of it. If you're not exact, that is just fine. Okay, so I now have my, as you can see, that all cut apart. I am going to come around here and make my fold not so stark and kind of like flatten it back out. And then I'll bring it back over. But I just want that to not be quite so stark. So then I'm going to come through and I can kind of tamp that down. I take it and then I'm going to just start rolling it. And you want to make sure you have your tacky glue. If you want to use like a double-sided tape, that's good too. That'll work. I find that tacky glue works pretty good. If you can get it to come out. And you don't need a lot, and with the crepe paper, it dries like so fast. So I'm gonna use that a little bit at the end so I can fold it over and start my roll. And as you can see, I'm sorry, as you can see, since you've kind of pushed down on those, it helps open them up so you have a nice middle. And you're just about to the end of it. Go ahead and take your tacky glue. So we're gonna take our middle then, and it can kind of poke up, but you can just tamp that down a little bit to make it flush, and we'll set that right there. And we're gonna take our first peony leaf, and we'll go ahead and we are going to stretch the middle of it. And then I learned this, if we want to give it the nice little ripple effect, I'm going to take, okay, so I've stretched out in the middle. I'm going to take this, and in the very middle, I'm just going to like stretch it one way, and then you'll see that little curve here. I'm going to come up, I'm going to go along with it, and then I'll pull on the opposite side, and I'll just keep doing that. If you are familiar with baking and doing like the edges of a pie crust, that's pretty much what we're doing it. We're gonna give our petal a little bit of character and depth there. And there we have this one. So, and you can see like the rippling there. We're gonna go ahead and take a bit of our tacky glue. I'm going to go ahead, I like to find my seam on my middle. I'm gonna just go right on top of that. then we can wrap that around. It's not a super tight deal. You can roll it up as tight as you would like. Get in there a little bit. And then, so that's around there pretty tight. I would go ahead and do that because there's a lot of play in here that we can go ahead and stretch things and mold or bend things out as well. And so that is our first leaf on there. Now, that has definitely not stayed to the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and push that down a little bit, and then I will add a little bit of tacky glue to where I want. Okay, or we can just take it apart too, that's fine too. So we want this to stay, so we get a nice solid base. So the beginning here is what I would consider to be the most difficult part, as it is with the other paper flowers that we have done in the past. So I'm going to go ahead and take a few of my petals and do my molding here. All along the bottom. So then I'm going to make my starting point not completely opposite. I'm going to take this tab and start just over here. So then you have a nice layering effect starting. And just, okay, and that just is pulling a little to the point where it looks like it lines up more, so I'm going to move it over a little bit and then bring my petal around. Okay, so then we have a nice layer going. And we're going to continue this around. With a couple more. Okay guys, I went ahead and did a couple more. So now I have 4 petals around the middle. And like I said, you'll see that the bottom doesn't stay flush, and that's fine too. And also like 4 is pretty decent amount. And then we can go ahead and we'll start adding, oh, look at this guys, I missed cutting that apart. After you accordion cut them out, you want to make sure you cut the bottom. But we would do the same thing here with the middle flowers, or the next largest shape. And when I do like the little ribbon stretching, I try to only stretch like one side. That way it gives it that nice scalloped look. And remember, when you attach your petals, you are going to want to stagger them so they're not all lining up the same all the way around. gonna take this and it over here. So then I'm going to I have to think about this sometimes. I'm going to want to start here. Make sure you come to the bottom of where you were, because then you'll see where this lines up taller than those. And then come around. It appears I don't have enough glue. And I am no longer like stretching it to meet all the way around. So now we have our next layer that makes that longer. I will go ahead and attach a few more and be right back. Okay, this is the fourth petal of the medium or middle petals. And I'm gonna go ahead and actually kind of stretch out my bottom a little bit. And then I will be gluing that on just to kind of help give it some depth of opening up. Go in where this gap is over here. Touch that down. I'm going to go ahead and kind of, not too much stretching because we've already kind of stretched it before we're gluing it. Okay, and so then we just glued this one on. And then making sure I don't have glue on my finger, I'm going to go ahead and run my finger down through here. Just kind of raise that up from there. See what it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and add the fifth one. Okay, and then I'm going to stretch out that bottom. It already kind of gives it that wispy little curl there. And I'm going to go ahead and then I see that I want to kind of fill in on this side over here. So I'm going to put this one down. And then I'm just going to bring him up. And you are going to come up kind of kittywampus. It's not going to be straight flush wrapping around. And then I'm just going to give it a little squeeze. And then this leaves the outside larger petals. So before I get to that, I'm going to bring my scissors in here and just kind of like see where I'm at, and then where I would like to pull any gaps in. And you can start actually folding some of these folds out. And that's a beautiful thing about working with crepe paper, is it's very forgiving and there's a lot of play that you have with it. That is the middle. And then for this one, I'm also going to do the same. I'm going to stretch. I'm going to give it see there. I'm going to do that. Oops. You have to be careful with paper clips too, because sometimes when you pull them off, you'll end up with a little hole there. So I'm going to use this little guy as like my first one I'll put on. Since he is my first, I'm going to kind of stretch the bottom out a little bit. Oh goodness, guys. And I forgot. We're going to go ahead and cut up a little bit and bring that bottom over, because I've made like a half inch cut in there. So I'm going to glue that over to give that a little, it'll help it stand better up straight. And I'm just going to come in right across from that last petal I put on. And now we're going to start getting a little bit more volume pulling out to the outside. So, before I forget, make sure we go ahead and do that. You can do about an inch actually. I'm going to take my others. Do my cut. I'll actually go ahead and glue that. Come back. Okay, as you can see, I've got those folded, and now this is where we're going to make sure that we overlap them. A little bit of stretch, not much. But then you can see that I put base one on, overlapped there. I'm going to come around and then do my next overlap. Overlap again. Come up just a little bit higher. So then I have my overlap, overlap, overlap. And I'm right back here. So then I'm going to peel this one back. See if I can get layered in there. That one comes in, and this one will go back on top of that. So we got a nice layered all the way around. And it's gonna feel thick. And then I'm gonna let that dry a little bit. And while I do that, I'll come over here to my greenery, and I'm actually going to cut about a 1-inch section off. So I know what will go around. So then for the base, I got a 1-inch that I got going around. How much do I need to go around? About like that. Cut that. And I'm actually gonna kind of cut it in half. Or fold it in half. I'm not gonna make any tight creases. And then I'm going to go ahead and cut some V's in here. This is not an exact science. Even in the middle here now. I'm gonna touch that up a little bit. All right, so I've cut my, what I'm gonna wrap around here. I'm actually gonna go ahead and just pull around each little scallop or prong or whatever. And so I've done that all the way around. So then the next thing I can do is take my glue and go all the way around for the glue. Okay. Got a big spot there. Okay. Then I'm just going to come on up and I'm going to pick a spot that I want to make sure is covered nicely. I'll go ahead and just lay that on there. Keep coming around. And then I find out that I've got more than enough, which is just fine. So nip that part off. Got glue all over my fingers. Okay. And that is the basics of your flower bud. And now that that's kind of dried a little bit, I can go ahead and start playing with this and like folding things over a little bit. Out. And you can just keep playing and playing with it till you unfold it to give it the volume that you would like. And like I said, this is just like the basics to start you off at the bottom. I see that I already want to reapply some glue to my base here. And then I'll do a quick little blurb about how I got my stem and leaves on to my flower. All right, so when I do my leaves, I actually want to do them in half. So I took my green paper and I cut it in chunks. It kind of depends upon how big you want your leaves and such. But this is what I did. So I've cut that in. I'm going to put two pieces together. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I'm going to cut how I want the shape of my leaf. So there. And see, that's what I do with these two pieces over here. I lay them over each other and cut them out. And here I have floral wire. I have a light green and a dark green. You can use whatever. For me, I decided to use the light green for the leaves. I'm going to take my leaf. My leaf is about that long, so I'm going to give about twice as much, if not a little bit more, for the rest of it to work into the stem. If it's thin wire, I think this is supposed to be 26 gauge wire, 23. It's really light, it's easy. If you have a decent scissors, you can snip it, or if you have a wire cutters, it's nice to designate wire cutters for such a thing for easier wear on your scissors. So I have the pieces of my leaf, and I'm going to go ahead and take my glue run it down. And then I'll go ahead and lay my wire. I'm going to try and make it as straight as possible. I am not going to take it directly to the very tip. I'm going to bring it back a little bit, about a 1/4 inch. And I'm going to lay that on there. Then I'm going to take that other half of my leaf and place that on top. And so now I have the middle of my leaf. And this is where you can go ahead and trim a little bit of that top to make that symmetrical. And then now you can, if you haven't cut your leaf, you can do like a fold with it, like we did with the ends of the flowers, to give it a little bit of texturing. And then that wire in there allows you to position and play with your leaf. If you want, you can go ahead and cut. You can give as much detail as you want with your leaf. These, I just left them pretty plain. It looks more like a rose leaf, but I'm not that picky. I'm still learning. And so I have a leaf, and then I would do the same for another leaf. I halved my wire because my wire is not super sturdy. So I'm gonna leave that end open a little bit, but then I'm gonna start twisting it together. And that just makes it a little more sturdy and easier to work with. And then I'm actually going to take glue and be very generous with it around the tips. And yeah, the heavier the flower is, the stronger you're gonna want the wire to be. Oh my gosh, so sorry guys. So this is the bud, and I have multiple layers. I'm going to go ahead and take my ends here, and I am just going to insert that as much as into any of those little cracks I have in there. There. And so I have 2-pronged it and glued that in there. And one of the harder parts is to marry the bud to the stem. But this is where we will take some more of our green paper, any leftover from when we cut off to do our bottom here, off of that strip. I'm going to go ahead and be generous with my daubing of glue onto here. And then I'm going to kind of start pulling it a little more taut. Okay. And then you'll see that it comes down a little bit farther. Then we're going to use our handy dandy floral tape, which I'll be real honest guys, kind of hate it. You have to stretch it. It's got some give to it, but you have to stretch it for it to be sticky, and for it to actually start to stick to your crepe paper. You're going to actually want to just start with gluing it on there. And for me, to make it as less frustrating as possible, I use little bits at a time. So I have my bud here. I am going, usually I let it dry just a little bit more, but I am going to go ahead and put a dab of glue up there right where we last, where you can feel the edge of your bud is. And then you don't want it too thick. You want to spread it just a little bit thin, because floral tape doesn't like to stick to anything but itself. And like I said, you have to stretch it for it to like activate, to make it sticky. So I'm gonna put that floral tape there, right where I've glued it. I'm gonna bring this around, and we're gonna start to crinkle that bottom, which is fine, which is what we will be ending up wanting to do anyway. And remember, floral tape is not fun to work with. I'm gonna keep stretching it and running it around and around until I know I got it to stay and it's not sliding, and I'm stretching and twisting. Pull. And once I feel like it's starting to stick decent, I'm gonna start twisting and winding it down. And now that I've got that done, I am going to actually take my leaf and figure out where I would like it. I am just going to bring it in about here. Hold that up there. I'm going to twist the wire in. Sorry guys, pulled out of your view. And so I've wound it around the end of floral tape, just bringing it down. I'm going to cut off another length of floral tape. I'm going to stretch it a little bit, get it going. Going to bring that back up and start a little bit above where I left off. Okay, and then stretch and twist. Stretch, twist, stretch and twist. Now, I see where I have some poking through, so I'm gonna like wind it back up a little bit. And then I'm just going to continue this down until you have a nice stem. And you can make as many leaves and feed them in just like this. And your fingers will get a little sticky. And winding the floral tape all the way down gives you some stability as well with your stem. And once your glue dries a little bit more, go ahead and work on turning it and pulling things out, filling things out to where you want them. And good luck.